The single best fat burning exercise that we know of is an hour walk at a slow pace that you can hold a conversation with, that you can talk to your spouse and go for an hour right after dinner. All of my people, when they're dieting and they hit a wall on their weight loss, I say, do this. After your last meal, go for a walk for an hour, listening to educational stuff, books, whatever it may be, talk to your partner, whatever it may be, but go for that hour slow walk. And what that does is it sets that metabolic rate before you go to bed. It helps digest your last meal. It ramps the metabolic rate, and it starts the fat burning process, which goes throughout the night. It's by far the best secret that anybody has ever shared with me, is that long walk right after the last meal, the most effective fat burning exercise that we know about.
I love it.
Hey, it's Ultra Life today. I'm Josh Bellew. You know, summer's right around the corner. People do these event things as it relates to their weight. I've got to look good for my wedding. I've got to look good for my class reunion. We're talking to a guy today, Kyle Drew and I. His name's Todd Scarborough, 5 times Mr. Arkansas. This is a guy that has gotten ready for events many times in his life, but we're going to talk about something that's lifestyle related, not event related today, so that you can look good in your swimsuit this summer. Kyle, what's up? What's up, Todd?
Hey, Todd, how's it going, man?
Hey, I'm doing great, and what a great topic, because there's so much confusion around it. I see so much marketing hype and misinformation that it just makes me cringe. I want to throw things at the TV when I see these weight loss commercials.
Well, and so let's talk about this. We're starting with the idea that we're talking to a bodybuilder, a 5-time Mr. Arkansas, and what that means. Just give people a hint, not a long explanation, but a hint of how long it takes to prepare for a contest and how much scale weight you're trying to lose and what is your percentage of body fat on that day. I just want to give people the impression that you might know what you're talking about, okay?
Well, the game of bodybuilding is about fat loss. It's about muscle, but you also have to, at contest time, pull off the fat. So, you know, bodybuilders haven't contributed a whole lot to the world except a bunch of dumbbells, maybe. But as far as weight loss is concerned, fat loss, we're the pros at it. That's what we do. When people say they want to lose weight, I say, no, you don't. You want to lose fat. You don't want to lose weight. You lose muscle, you lose metabolic rate, you lose shape. And actually, the ideal is to have muscle and lower fat. So that's what we do. We're trying to lower our fat at contest time. I got down to 4.9%, and it's a lonely place. Let me tell you, you don't want to be there. You know, the one thing that people have to realize, being in shape is looking good in your clothes. Being conditioned is what athletes look like we look like boxers and fighters look like at the time of their competition. These guys are in immaculate shape. And in order to get to that level, you have to put in a lot of work. But what applies to us fat loss wise, what we do to lose fat is the exact same thing that everyone else should do. It's the only way to lose weight and lose fat effectively and keep it off. And every other way is going to come back. It's going to come and have these cycles of people going up and down in weight. The way we lose it is the most sound and most effective way. And it's something that happens very quickly. When I hear about these different medications, weight loss pills, losing 50 pounds over a year and a half. Well, I can take people and bring off 50 pounds in about 6 months, if not sooner, just by applying regular meals, working out a little bit. It's not that hard. It's a very simple thing as far as weight loss is concerned, as far as the equation to do it. But as far as pulling it off, it's hard because you have to change your lifestyle and all that. But as far as the process of fat loss, it's very easy. It's not that hard.
Well, you've trained an awful lot of people, and obviously you've done it yourself. What is the biggest challenge that people have, or maybe the biggest misconception about the process of losing weight? Because I know that you've seen a lot of people doing it wrong. What makes it wrong? And what do they go in with that really is just not the way to do it?
But the biggest misconception is by saying, I'm going to restrict my calories. I'm not going to eat. You know what happens when you don't eat? Your metabolic rate is further suppressed. Most people that are overweight, they go, well, I don't get hungry. And I go, that's a terrible thing. That tells me that your metabolic rate is totally shut down.
Wow.
If you are not hungry, if you don't get hungry, then that means your metabolic rate is shut down. What we have to do is reignite that hunger, reignite the fire. And how you do that is how we do it, is small meals every 3.5 to 4 hours, right amounts at the right time. And what that does, you're giving the body these small meals. I had one lady that couldn't eat 4 times a day. She said, I can't do it. I said, okay, 3.5 hours in after your last meal, I want you to take a shake, mix it up, take 2 drinks of it. I don't care. I don't care if it's just 2 sips. Fine. That's all you can take. But do it on a clock. Do it and start getting patterned. Well, the next thing you know, she's drinking all of that shake. And the next thing you know, she's taking in twice the calorie intake that she was, and she's losing weight.
Wow.
And she has more energy. And her metabolic rate is flying because she called me one day and she said, I'm getting hungry. My stomach is proud. I said, do you want me to give you a standing ovation? That's fantastic.
So is that what's happening, Todd? Is that what it's happening when you are visiting with someone who obviously has a lot of weight to lose, but are reporting to you that they're not hungry? You're saying that in your experience, that's a real sign of metabolic rate breakdown.
Yes,
for,
not only in
for a
my
lot
experience,
of
but
reasons.
physiologically. Physiologically, that's what's happening. Because what happens when you are starved? The body starts shutting off the appetite. I mean, it's saying, okay, we're not getting food. Why do we keep sending this impulse? Why do I want to keep sending? So they're professionals by that point of shutting off that impulse of hunger and just going right through the day. But what that's not doing anything but lowering their metabolic set point. It just continues to lower. Now, all of a sudden, 1,100 calories a day is enough to get you fat because you just lowered your set point to such a low level that you can't eat as much as you used to. So every day that goes by, you're continually slowing and lowering that set point of your metabolic rate. How do you get it back? Simple. Start eating, start getting the metabolic rate back. And when that hunger starts coming back, that's a good sign. When your stomach starts to growl, that's something to celebrate for sure.
That's a fascinating. I think that I hope that a lot of people are listening to this who are experiencing that problem of being overweight, but still not real hungry, and maybe even saying, golly, I don't eat very much. What's the problem? That's a really interesting perspective, Todd. I appreciate that. Is there, were you about to ask a question, Josh?
Yeah.
Follow up.
When you're taking somebody through this idea, let's say a person did want to lose 50 pounds in 6 months, and of course you mentioned exercise being a component there, but when a person is going to be eating every 3.5 to 4 hours to lose weight, what percentages of fats, carbs, and proteins might make up one of those meals? Because I'm a little confused, because I could see a lot of people going, I'm going to start out with, 2 bowls of oatmeal in the morning, and they may end up with all carbs. So how would you suggest somebody do that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and the first thing I do with people whenever I start telling them every 3.5 to 4 hours, I have to hold their hand and deal with it psychologically, because it flips them out. They're like, I can't do that, So I have to encourage them there. But as far as you bring up a great point, Josh, because it's what I tell people, it's the frequency of the meal, it's the size of the meal, and it's the ratio of that meal, meaning the makeup of it. What is it? Protein, carbs, and fats. This has been argued and debated. Pritikin says we need 10% fat and 90% carbs and no fat, which is ridiculously stupid. And then you have the Atkins diet, which is nothing but protein and fats and no vegetable. That's ridiculous. And so when you look at the extremes of these ratios that are out there, I really believe that how you determine that is based on the intestinal tract of that mammal and the teeth profile of that mammal. A cow versus a human, I mean, it's different digestions, all of that, different protein needs, different carbohydrate needs, all of those things. We, I think, are a 40-30-30 creature, basically. 40% carbohydrates, 30% protein, 30% fat. That's
Okay.
kind of the ratio that I tend to think for average people. Now, for me, I do 40-40-20 at the end because I'm bumping the protein a little bit more, reducing the fats just a touch. But if you're eating that ratio and you're still overeating your calorie consumption for the day, you're still going to get fat. It's not the ratio necessarily. You still have to count the calories, and you have to, in my opinion, balance them over about 4 meals, because the ideal, guys, the body's a machine. It's an elaborate machine. It reads input and it adapts to it. That's all we are, is adaptation machines. It's adapting every single time.
Boy, I got to tell you, Todd, you said something that a lot of people are going to hate. And a lot of people out there who are marketing themselves as weight loss gurus are going to say, man, that Todd Scarborough doesn't know what he's talking about. You don't have to worry about calories. Why do calories count? That's an old-fashioned idea. Talk about it, because I think that this is ridiculous when people say, oh, calories don't matter as long as they're all blank, as long as they're all fat calories if you're on a ketogenic diet, or as long as they're all carbs if you're on a 1980s low-fat diet. This has been the story for decades now, the debate over whether calories matter. You, a bodybuilder, says yes, they do matter.
Well, let me just bring them back to the law of physics. Okay? It's just the law. I mean, of course it is. You overeat. If you eat more than you burn, of course you're going to store it. No matter what it is, if it's fat or it's protein or it's carbs, the body can store that in the fat cells. Of course it can. And so the overconsumption of protein hurts the liver because it has to go through there to be excreted. The overconsumption of carbohydrates do devastating things to the body. Triglycerides go through the roof, fat levels go way up, everything, the markers. So it's the overconsumption of calories that has us here. I mean, that's a fact. Look back in the 70s, you did not have these concentrated fuels. Sugar was a condiment. It was added to to sweeten it or something. Now people are existing on sugar. They're eating sugar for breakfast and drinking sugar all day long. And it's a scourge. I think it's one of the one thing. And to me, my mother fed me fudge. That's how she showed me love when I was a child. I have a mouthful of fillings to prove it. And so I'm still a sugar addict, but it's something it's the overconsumption of calories that has us here, and mostly the overconsumption of simple sugars. Period.
How, in your opinion, what is the most important part of the equation? Is it diet? Is it exercise? Is it some other third thing? There are lots of people who believe that they can out-exercise a junk food diet and be okay. So how do you weigh the importance of those different factors?
Well, and you said what's the most important? I would say D, all of the above. Mm-hmm. It kind of all has to play in. You don't diet calories off, you don't diet fat off, you burn them off. That's the only way they come off. You have to burn them. And that has to either be through a metabolic rate that is risen or activity. And we know that physical exercise, it goes well beyond what it does for you on the weight loss level. Right. Let's face it. I mean, there's so many benefits. We couldn't talk about it in 2 hours as far as the benefit of physical exercise. So that's a part of the system, certainly. But I don't overwork people. I make them go 30 minutes a day, 4 days a week. That's not hard. That's 2 hours a week. That's not a lot of time. But the main thing is the diet. The main thing is prepping their foods. I tell people, if you don't prep your meals, you're going to fail. If you don't have a plan, you will fail, because you will go into some store that has cakes, baking, and cookies, and you just are going to dive headfirst into them and eat the closest thing there. I mean, I'm the same way. So I cook my meals, prep my meals, and have a plan. And that's my biggest asset for people as a trainer, is showing them how to set that in place.
Yeah. So I want to go back to you saying 30% fats, because when I think of fats, these days I think of them much differently than I used to. If you'd mentioned that to me, back when I was a teenager, I would have been going, pizza, baby, and I would have been going Big Macs and stuff. So when you talk about 30% fats in the diet as being the right ratio, what kind of fats should people be eating, Todd?
Well, there are so many, my dad used to call me a fathead, and it wasn't a compliment, but I reminded him the brain is made of fat. And I'm like, okay, thank you. It's a compliment. The brain is made of fat. And there's so many components, or the nerves are surrounded by fat. So fat's a very important part of our diet. It's a third of it, or at least, one of the components. So how important is it? Yeah, it's very important what we get it from. There are, I think it was, the musician, I can't remember his name. He said there's two types of music, good music and bad music. And I feel the same thing about fats. There's two types of fats, good fats and bad fats. And so the good fats are obvious. I mean, nuts and avocados and even cheeses. I think animal fats are very good. I think even fats off the steak and those type of things are very good. The bad fats, oleoester, I remember that one that they invented to try to sneak through the body undigested, and it just caused great havoc in the body. These altered fats, the trans fats, the things that have hydrogenated oils, obviously.
The seed oils as well, right? We want to avoid the seed oils?
Well, yeah, as far as in concentration, I think, as far as olive oil and things like that, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
There's some seed oils like sesame seed oil.
Okay.
That's very good. I don't think any of it is bad necessarily. It's just the way it's processed,
right.
The way it's handled afterwards. And if it's rancid, it could be the best of omega-3 fatty acids, but if it's rancid, it's bad oil. It's got to be fresh.
Yeah. Well, and the same question that Josh asked about fat, I'll ask about carbs. How do you advise people on the whole carb conversation?
Absolutely. And when I start consulting with people on this is carbs are the throttle, basically, of the body and how the body idles and energy levels and all of that. Too much of it, it'll go to fat very quickly. And we see that often. So what I do with carbohydrates, as far as the types of carbs, obviously it's those ones that are starchy carbs, or at least a longer burning carb. What gets us in trouble with these sugars, these short chain, they digest so quickly and they go into the bloodstream and they turn into triglycerides, which is blood fat. So when people have high triglyceride levels, the first thing I say is, you're a sugar freak, aren't you? And they go, yes, I am. It's a telltale sign. It's just too much sugar in the diet, which in turn puts too much fat in the blood because it's turning to fat, trying to store basically as long-term energy. So it's something as far as the carbohydrate sources. Again, what's working for you? Does corn digest well or not? Some people, corn doesn't. Most people, rice digest well. Some people, wheat with gluten allergies, those type of things. Find those ones that work for you. Stay with them. I'm so boring in my diet. I'm just the same old thing. It's just like when did Elvis Presley ate black-eyed peas for a year? I could do that.
So do you? So when it comes to exercise, and then we'll wrap this up. Obviously, you're going to have a strength training protocol. Do you also have a cardio protocol? How do you put it all together for the rest of us, for those of us who are not about to enter the bodybuilding contest, but we might want to enter our pants and not have to squeeze into them eventually?
This is the best way to end this show, and that's the way to lose fat. And people think it's high impact cardio, or it's this long drawn out thing, or whatever it may be. The single best fat burning exercise that we know of is an hour walk at a slow pace that you can hold a conversation with, that you can talk to your spouse and go for an hour right after dinner. All of my people, when they're dieting and they hit a wall on their weight loss, I say, do this after your last meal. Go for a walk for an hour, listening to educational stuff, books, whatever it may be, talk to your partner, whatever it may be, but go for that hour slow walk. And what that does is it sets that metabolic rate before you go to bed. It helps digest your last meal. It ramps the metabolic rate, and it starts the fat burning process, which goes throughout the night. It's by far the best secret that anybody has ever shared with me, is that long walk right after the last meal. the most effective fat burning exercise that we know about.
I love it.
I'm going to extend this with one more question. I have to get this out.
Sure.
So there is a huge trend, as you're aware of, called intermittent fasting.
Yes.
And I've read a lot about it, and I know it can do some really amazingly good things in the body. How does someone reconcile the idea of intermittent fasting when you're talking about eating every 3.5 or 4 hours? Is that going to be something they need to avoid, or is that something that can be incorporated in and still be able to lose the weight they want?
That certainly is a contrast between those two, and you kind of have to pick sides. Here's what it is. Intermittent fasting is very good for cleansing the body, no question about that, giving the intestinal tract a break. I believe in that type of fasting, certainly. Intermittent fasting for weight loss will work off the front end just simply because you're restricting those times.
Right.
So the body is burning that fat during the time that you don't have food. However, it's lowering the metabolic rate, number one, because you're not eating. That fire is only burning for a short time, and I don't like that. And it plays a great role after you get the fat burning process. When you get the metabolic rate ignited through frequent meals, then intermittent fasting can be beneficial. It can add a little bit to it. But if you start intermittent fasting right off the front end and you've got 80 pounds to lose, it's going to slow the process down.
I am so glad I asked you that question because it was just troubling me.
Yeah.
It's like, wow.
That is a great question. Cool. Todd, boy, I guess we could spend 5 more hours with you, but we know you. Okay, I see your look. We can do it.
Okay, that's Todd Scarborough, 5-time Mr. Arkansas, and potentially going to be doing it again. Kyle Drew, did you hear him say that?
Yes, I can't believe it. Yeah. I can't believe it.
It freaks me out. Okay, well, Kyle Drew, Todd Scarborough, I'm Josh Bellew. This is Ultra Life Today.